Joining me now, candidate for governor, Republican Denver Riggleman. Denver, good to have you, man.
Hey, John, I'm going to need a satellite dish on my phone for driving around the state without. My first act as governor, so I'm putting cell phone towers everywhere in rural areas. I just want to let you know that.
Well, you got to get that because I tell you what, you go to some areas of Virginia and you are just SOL, man. You can't get internet. You can't get a phone. You know, that's why we need to bring broadband into these areas. Denver,
yes.
Before we get into your governor's race, I want to pick your brain here. You're running for governor. You're a Republican. You also served for a long time, senior Air Force intel. What did you think of Trump's revised executive order yesterday? He took Iraq out. You got 6 countries in, 90-day suspension of travel. Could go on beyond that. After looking at that, do you think it made sense? Why or why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's sort of what we thought about when we talked about before, that I thought that this was sort of a failed state pause, not a Muslim ban. You know, and it looks like I don't get really that excited about it because I figured this is what happened. Iraq would come to the table. They would say, listen, we want to do better data sharing. We want to do better vetting. Please don't do this to us. We will help more. Guess what? They came to the table, and now they're off the list. And he shortened the amount of time for the Syrian refugees also. So you see them slowly getting this vetting process in order. And now what do you call this? Now what happens? What does the left call this now, John? Is this the sort of Muslim pause based on a failed state strategy of, the result of bad data aggregation and need for better data adjudication? I mean, there's really no title for this except let's protect our borders, let's protect our country, and let's protect ourselves based on doing better vetting of refugees. That simple.
All right, it's that simple. Okay, let's get to the Obamacare plan. I'm going to hit you with a lot of stuff, Denver, because you are running for governor. New Obamacare replacement plan comes out. This is an interesting thing that's in this thing. So you got 4 Republican senators who say, wait a minute, I'm not going to vote for any replacement because my Republican governors took the Medicaid expansion money from the federal government. They took billions of dollars, and now we got all these people on the rolls, and the system is collapsing. And Virginia, well, they were too stupid to figure this out because we knew that even if the whole system collapsed, that we would go to the federal government and they would continue to give us money in perpetuity. So unless you put a Medicare expansion extension in the bill so that those states keep getting the money, we're out. And if we're out, you lose. So then Republicans in the House, they scramble, they cave, and now we, as Virginians, rallied to defeat Medicare expansion. We forgoed all that money because we said when the Obamacare collapses, we don't want to be on the hook. Now it's collapsed, and they're going to continue to get the money. Doesn't it make us look like idiots?
Yes. I'll tell you this. We did add a letter, didn't we, though,
Thank
John?
you.
I mean, it's not the ACA anymore, correct? We added a letter, and we don't have tax, we have, instead of subsidies, right, we now have the ability to, right, I mean, think about how crazy that is that, now we get to deduct it from our taxes. That's a subsidy. So it seems to me that we just changed some of the definitions, and isn't that what politicians do is they hide behind language? It's obtuse. So really, we just got the same thing. We got a couple nice things where the penalties aren't as bad. Instead of subsidies, we get a tax break. We get an extra letter. And we still have to look at getting money from the federal government to prop up our system based on what $100 billion block grant or whatever they're talking about with that. And I was trying to read that as fast as I could last night at 11 p.m. after my campaign meetings, and you just sort of shake your head. You're like, wow, so this is repeal and replace? Well, I suppose we're stuck with Obamacare. It just has an extra letter now, and I guess we're stuck with it for the rest of our lives. And I have to agree that eventually, John, I mean, I think in the next 10 to 15 years, I think you're going to see legislation for a single-payer system. I just think it's coming. I don't know what we can do to stop it.
That's what I've been saying for some time. Look, everybody knows that a really serious analyst about this, that Obamacare was put into place as a down payment on a single-payer system. You look at what they're doing right now, that's where they're headed, and we have a Republican. Apparently they missed the Trump revolution, but I love what you said, adding an extra letter, and I want to tell everybody what that means.
I saw it.
The new name of it.
Letter. It's like the ACA now. Yeah, it's great.
It's unbelievable. What is it? The American Affordable Care Act?
something like that,
right?
It's and that's why.
So they basically added an A. I mean, 72 months, and they tweaked 5 things and added an A and changed the name. It's called the American Healthcare Act, the AHCA. Instead of the ACA, they added an H.
They did.
Well, it's an H, AHCA.
Right. So the
they
Trump
added an H.
revolution is all down to.
Isn't that all we need? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Denver, shouldn't we be celebrating today?
I honestly can't get over it. It's just unbelievable.
We should be celebrating.
And I guess it's just something we got to deal with now. And you just shake your head. You really do.
You got to shake your head. This is about the most asinine thing I've ever seen. They added an H. They changed nothing. They call a subsidy a tax credit. They do nothing to increase competition, no purchasing across state lines. They do nothing to allow other companies to get in the mix. They change the mandate for young people to an incentive, which is probably a good thing. Instead of mandating it, they're giving it away. So you have to be an idiot not to buy it. Plus, you get a tax deduction. So where before if you were a young, healthy person, you had to buy it, now if you don't buy it, you don't get the tax deduction. So, of course, you're going to buy it. But that's a subsidy because instead of paying the taxes, you're paying the insurance company. This really should be called the Insurance Company Monopoly Act, right?
There you go. And
it should be
it's a fantastic way to make
called
money for them.
Called IMA.
This is guaranteed income streams, John, that are massive without competition. I think the only thing Virginia can do, I think you already said it, is we got to somehow allow for competition across state lines. If that's the only way we're going to get any kind of competition, I think at some point we got to really look at that in the state of Virginia. I don't know what else, John, unless it seems to me it's a fait accompli. So how do we make sure competition in Virginia is something that we can leverage? And I think the only way to do that is to allow that type of competition across state line. I just don't know what else to do at this point. Unless we allow it.
You got to do something. That's a separate bill trying to make its way. It's not part of this bill. I just want to know what the hell they've been doing for 72 months. Obviously not working on this. Okay, I've got 5 minutes. Denver Riggleman, Republican running for governor, June 13th, Republican primary. There are 4 candidates. The front runner, Ed Gillespie, Senator Frank Wagner, Prince William County Chairman Corey Stewart, and independent businessman Denver Riggleman, who shot terrorists and makes whiskey now. Denver, last poll that came out, let's just cut to the chase here. You're at a couple percent. I think that in the last month of this campaign, in the primary, I project, just looking at this, that Gillespie drops $1 million in TV ads. He's going to try to run away with the race and get his name ID up for the general. So I think he's going to spend $1 million in the final month of May advertising. Nobody's going to be able to compete with that. I mean, legitimately, Denver, how do you stay in this race? How do you win?
Get the message out, plug away, ground game, specific data strategies. We do have a strategy to go down south, bring it back up north. We've been all over the state. I know I have to work harder than everybody else, get the message out harder than everybody else. But you're right, John. I mean, we have to somehow find a way through funding, through fundraising, through grassroots to get the money to compete. And I think a lot of people want to pay lip service. I'm really not paying attention to the polls at this point because I think Gillespie was still at 24% after running, constantly for Senate and for the past 5 years. So
yes,
and to see 59% undecided, your eyes sort of widen and like, my goodness. So there's still 60% of the vote out there that's unclaimed, and we have to go after that unclaimed vote because I think Ed does have a baseline of about 24 to 25%, which isn't big. But that means that I got to get about 30 to 35% of the vote. So the great thing for us, John, is we don't have to get a majority. We have to get a plurality. And that plurality has to be people who think that, you don't want to get in a pissing match with a skunk, and they're sick of the politicians doing that. And I think that's where we're at, is that's why I've been down south. That's why I'm trying to hit every county, is that people need to meet me in person, John. But you're exactly right. This is an uphill battle. To say anything less it'd just be dishonest. So it is a grassroots campaign, and we have to get to the people, and hope is never a viable course of action. But we have to hope that when they hear our message, that it overcomes the onslaught that we're going to expect in the last month. And so, John, that's what we have to do. We have to work harder and have a little bit of hope in the end that people hear the message, and use that type of insurgent campaign to get that message out.
It's going to be an uphill battle, Denver, because you
Yes,
look
sir.
at you look at the amount of
It
money
is.
that Gillespie's got, and look, I mean, I've been following this stuff a long time. He's got some pretty sharp people in there, and I can bet you anything they're going to dump $1 million in TV advertising in the final month. They're going to try to get over 50% and raise their name ID to run against Northimer Perriello. That's going to make it really tough for somebody to overcome when they spend that kind of money on TV in the final couple of weeks, and nobody's going to be able to compete with that. I mean, I look at the other funding of the campaigns. I mean, nobody is anywhere near that level.
No.
Look, I mean, reality, now reality is setting in, right? General Assembly's over. We're into March. You got April, May. You got, 3 months. You guys are going to have to figure this out. Otherwise, he's going to win in a landslide.
Well, it's great to be the underdog sometimes. I think I got a puncher's chance, right? What was it in Rocky Balboa, John, when he goes, hey, it's, not how hard you can hit, but how many hits you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. And I think that's part of my life. I've come from nowhere anyway. I came from nothing. I've done very well in my life. So I'm okay with a slog. I'm okay with a fight. But guess what I get to do? I'm not a professional politician with handlers. I'm not using McGuire Woods to put out my policy points. I get to say what I think needs to be said from a grassroots level. And that message could resound, John. Yeah, of course it's uphill. And, of course, I feel like we're pushing a rock or actually pushing a rope uphill, which is even harder. But I am so happy with the people that we have on our campaign. But I'm so much happier with the people we talk to. They're like, Denver, man, at least you're getting the message out there and doing the right thing. And, John, sometimes the right thing wins and sometimes it doesn't. But that doesn't mean we don't try. And I'm just going to keep plugging away and trying and doing the best I can.
Well, look, everywhere you go, I get people telling me that you're bringing the house down. And so your pathway here, Denver, is you got to catch lightning in a bottle. I've seen it happen. And so if you can do that, you're going to be able to close the gap. And like you said, I mean, 24%, not a bad number when everybody else is at 6 or 7 or 5. But when you look at 62% of the electorate undecided, that certainly means that the front runner has not the deal. So there's opportunity for the other candidates. Denver, we're out of time. Now that the General Assembly's over, we're going to try to have you on a regular basis, and appreciate your feedback on the ACHA.
The H. I just call it the H. I think that's all we need to call it.
The H.
H healthcare.
The
Just
H plan. The H.
Just the H. But thank you, John,
all right,
for
we're out
having
of
me
time.
again.
More information.
It's always a fantastic time with you, sir.
All right, man. You keep plugging. I'm going to get out there and get one of your bottles of whiskey in the near future.
John.
Denver
Thank you,
Riggleman, thanks for being with us. Denver Riggleman, shot terrorist, makes whiskey. Now he's running for governor. Not a bad combo, if you ask me. And he also calls the new plan the H plan. That's too funny. All right.
John.
Too funny, Denver.